What's going on, everybody? I'm Scott Oots, and welcome to this week's Deal Review. Today I'm going to take you over to San Bernardino, California. We buy a lot of properties over here. This is typically one of the cheaper areas of California to buy houses, so let's take a look at what we did. All right, so we contracted this house for $118,000 back in 2017. Now, yes, that is correct, and it is 2020 right now. So we contracted this house. I actually contracted this house prior to having my sales team fully out and running. So that's just how old this deal is. So you have to remember to keep working deals no matter what. Let's take a look at what we did here. So take a look at this house. So it's actually a duplex. There's actually a unit here above the back. There's a front house here. I believe it was a 3-bedroom house up front. It was a 1-bedroom up there with a garage, and there's a pool in the far back. So take a look at this. This thing definitely needs some work. Definitely things rotting away a little bit. You can see the old doors here. Everyone always seems to have a fridge out in their yard for some reason. But you can just see this house definitely needs some work. So this one here, received a call to purchase this inherited property back in 2017. Funny story, we actually bought another house from the same person out in San Bernardino as well. So we bought that house from her. She called us back to come buy this house. So you never know what people have up their sleeves. So make sure you always take care of your sellers. I locked up the contract at $118,000. Turns out the property was left out of the original probate by the attorney. The attorney really screwed her over. So when he processed the one property I'd already bought, he left this house out of it. And when I called that attorney and said, "Hey, what'd you do?" he had some choice words for me. So not a very friendly guy. So we needed an entirely new probate on this. So we actually found a new attorney that would take this and process a probate. We offered to pay for the probate and be reimbursed at the close of escrow. So that's something we do for sellers pretty often. If they can't afford to pay for the probate, they could potentially take, obviously 3 years almost, and have that money sitting out there. We'll pay for that as well for them. We went through 3 probate attorneys due to the complexity of the probate. Now, let me explain what was so complex with this. When a probate on an estate is done, when the judge stamps it at the end and says, "Okay, we're complete, you have the right to sell this house," a probate's typically done one time. But because he left the house, the lawyer left the house out of the probate, we actually had to have him go back in, reopen the probate to change it. And that makes it more complicated than doing a standard probate. All right, so more pictures of this. You could definitely see she was still living in this place. This is the garage, not the actual house. So the house itself, it had stuff in there, but ultimately it's your standard flip remodel house or potentially a buy and hold. It's a great buy and hold area. So house definitely needed some work. I like this area. It's a good area, but it's one of those areas where you want to lock your doors. So we stayed in contact with the seller and her attorney the entire time. We were friendly to the attorney. We found the attorney, so he didn't have any problem telling us what's going on. Countless follow-up calls, emails, texts. There had to be 100 contacts over this period of time. So fast forward to 9/11/2020. We received final approval from the probate court. They sent us the documents saying this piece of paper allows this seller to sell this house to SJO. At that point in time, we couldn't believe it. We're like, we have been dealing with this property for so long, but we got it done. So the other buyer we had was no longer around anymore. So we actually sold this to a new buyer at that time. So there's obviously some good news that happened with some of this. That new buyer was a higher price. So let's take a look at some more of these pictures. So this is the back area behind the house. You can see the pool here, a really deep pool. It hasn't been filled with water in a very long time. So that pool is going to either need to come completely out or it's probably going to need a lot of work at this point because of everything growing in and around it there. So as I said, we did get a higher offer. We expected this to be around $40,000, which was still a killer spread. But we actually locked in a new buyer at $228,300, closed with $110,300. 110,300. You should be going, yeah, right now. So close this. Killer deal. I like to tell my team that I'm in the 100,000 spread club with them now. So this was a long working deal, but it definitely came out not looking bad for us. All right, so not all deals will be overnight. So just lessons learned on this. A lot of people give up. Oh, it's not going to close. Forget it. I'm not going to deal with it. And they move on to their next lead. Not all deals close overnight. We kept at it. The seller is so happy that this is done for us. She is so happy to move on. She is ready to be done with this probate. So that's our deal there. This is a killer deal for us because this is the last deal that I put in contract back in 2017 before I got my sales team trained and out there doing this stuff for me. So I feel like I closed a chapter of my life with this one, but not a bad spread in the end. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this week's deal review. We'll talk to you next time.